International leaders, including German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, are meeting today in Berlin to discuss rebuilding Ukraine. The conference was opened a moment ago by the Chancellor and by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy joining via video link to address the participants. Conference organizers say that reconstruction is a, quote, generational mission and a key step toward Ukraine joining the European Union. It is estimated that hundreds of billions of euros will be necessary to rebuild the country. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz pledged his country's continued support.
Keine zwei Länder, die eine gemeinsame Geschichte haben. Aber aus unserer eigenen historischen Erfahrung wissen wir auch, dass wir
and that it is never too soon to tackle this task. Now is the moment to convene the brightest and best minds to provide expertise and recommendations to start rebuilding Ukraine. Now is the moment to use the world's collective knowledge to contribute to Ukraine's future. Now is the moment to develop the institutional framework to govern and deliver Ukraine's reconstruction. And now is the moment to discuss how Ukraine's future can be built and financed.
And let's bring in DW Chief Political Correspondent Nina Haase. Tell us a little bit more, Nina, about the messages that we have heard to kick off this conference.
The current head of the G7, so the most industrialized democracies around the world. And he said, this is not a donors conference. We're not here to make more pledges for financial support. What we are here for is to discuss what kind of a framework do we need? How can all the various international organizations come together and help Ukraine recover and reconstruct itself and also modernize itself? This is why he doesn't want the character of a political meeting. He's brought in people from the World Bank, from the IMF, from the EBRD, from the European Investment Bank. They're all going to sit down together and look at some of the proposals that are on the table, but also discuss, can we reach some sort of an agreement that we set up something similar to the Ramstein group, where, of course, international partners, international allies of Ukraine sit together and coordinate what kinds of weapons deliveries can come from which country. How can we set up something similar in terms of financial solidarity with Ukraine? But of course, there are a lot of very sticky issues here to touch.
Absolutely. One of the stickiest issues, Nina, is the fact that the fighting continues on the ground, of course. So tell us a little bit more about the timing of what, these influencers and leaders are planning right now, and whether or not the outcome that they desire is indeed realistic.
Well, they've all stressed the fact that Ukraine is the one that needs to be in the leading role. Ukraine knows best what it needs. But of course, Ukraine has already said that it needs roughly some $750 billion in terms of rebuilding its country. And there is something here on the table where politicians are going to have to stay realistic as well. They are going to have to look at, can we really, for example, use Russia's frozen assets, like the Ukrainian president demanded, for reimbursing Ukraine for some of the war damages that have been caused. Now, what's going to come out of this meeting is not going to be some sort of an international political paper, but they are going to pool all the experts' recommendations, and this is just the beginning of a very long process. But this is one of the messages that's coming out from here already as well. We're only starting this process, but we have to start it now because we can't wait for the war to be over, because Russia has very clearly formulated the goal of destroying Ukraine as a country, making sure it doesn't exist anymore. And of course, the Western allies have the completely opposite goal. They want Ukraine to recover and remain a livable country. And in order for that to happen, they say reinvestment needs to happen now. But one of the questions they need to discuss here is, how can we get private investment to go back into a country where you're at risk of losing all your investment because of Russian bombs.
And where so much aid is needed, indeed, right now. President Zelenskyy underscoring the urgency of the aid. He says that it's needed for the country's survival. You know, Nina, this is also coming against the backdrop of relatively tense German-Ukrainian relations lately. Germany says that it will continue to send air defense systems to the country. But of course, Ukraine has been calling on Germany for more, including sending of tanks. How far can this conference go right now to amend what has been a relatively tense relationship?
Well, it is definitely one of the attempts to help soften those tensions between Germany and Ukraine. That is something that is very clear here in political Berlin, that the German government feels it is sometimes misrepresented because, of course, when you look at humanitarian aid, financial assistance, etc., coming from Germany to Ukraine, that has been quite substantial. Weapons deliveries is a very, very difficult topic. Here, Germany broke with lots of its taboos by sending weapons to Ukraine in the first place into a crisis region with an active war going on. That is not something that had ever been happening. So Germany is going through a lot of change itself. But definitely Olaf Scholz is sending this message to Ukraine. You can rely on us for all other things. We are delivering weapons. We will also deliver 3 more air defense systems next year, and we're doing this sort of a ring exchange where we are supplying our partners with modern weapons, and they can then send weapons to Ukraine in exchange for that. So that is going on. That there is one concrete example with Greece that is going to be announced later on this month. And this is something where Germany says we are standing by your side and we are tackling this issue from very, very different angles.
Chief Political Correspondent Nina Haase, thank you.